Good afternoon and welcome to Euro special of the LFS podcast with me, Kevin Ferris, as we round up the round of 16 games and look ahead to this weekend's quarter-finals at Euro 2024 in Germany. We had some very exciting at Euro 2024 round of 16 games. We're going to go through them one by one. We're going to talk about each team that's in the quarterfinals and their matchups for the quarterfinal fixtures and a possible final matchup as well, because we know what side of the draw that each team is on, and we will bring that to you throughout this afternoon. Great to have you with us for this one. The last one went so well and you enjoyed it so much that we've done another one, and we will continue to do this. We will do a final preview as well next week, so a lot of details still to come. Do subscribe, do like, comment and subscribe. Do put any of your comments in the chat, anything you would like to respond to, any of your opinions in the chat. That would be great to have as well. And do like, because it really does help the stream and does help the video for the channel. Right, so the round of 16 was very exciting and we had some great ties, and we're going to start off with the first confirmed final, which was Spain against quarterfinal. Sorry, Spain against Germany, a repeat of the 2008 final. Of course, these two. Spain winning that 2008 final, of course. Lamine Yamal actually wasn't that old then. He was just 1 year old when Spain were the European champions back in 2008. We're going to talk about those two teams because they had very exciting round of 16 games for very different reasons, of course. I'm going to start with Spain because, look, Spain have been the most impressive side of the tournament so far. Everybody's been loving watching Spain. Their football's been great. Their players have been fantastic to watch. I mean, the whole atmosphere around the team, the head coach, the players, the fans, the football, everything about Spain so far has been absolutely fantastic. And to say that they could be European champions-elect would be a bit early, maybe a bit premature, but they've certainly got the qualities. I said it in their first group game I did commentary on the channel. They have the bare bones. They have the kind of skeleton of a very good team that have a very good chance of winning the European Championships, because they've got everything, and they've got a mix of experience and youth and quality, a really good head coach, a lot of tacticals. They're really fluid in their football. They get each other. The team look really kind of well-rounded, but one of the points is their amazing football. I mean, they've certainly had the best quality football of the tournament. They've certainly given us the most exciting games of the tournament, in terms of the fact that we look back to that Croatia game on match day one. I mean, what a way to open your tournament, beating Croatia, one of the sides that over the last few international tournaments have been one of the big shock sides to get to the latter stages, the likes of a quarterfinal, semi-finals for Croatia. They got to a World Cup final in 2018 as well, but maybe that Croatian team just a bit beyond their years. But Spain made them look really average in that game, and they were 3-0 up at half-time, Spain, and it could have been more that day. Some really good goals. That Fabian Ruiz goal will go down as one of the goals of the tournament, most certainly. Of course, Lamine Yamal, 16-year-old Lamine Yamal, got his first ever European Championships assist in that one goal contribution for their third goal against Croatia. Even against Italy, Spain, I mean, we go back to that one. Yes, it was 1-0, and yes, it was an own goal from Calafiori that won the game for Spain. But the way they played, the way they dominated Italy, the way they, again, made a probably good team, a very good team, a team that was the holders of the competition, a team that kind of dominated defensively in the last tournament. They made them look really weak, really average, really kind of not at it, not sharp at all. Made them look really bad, and I think that's credit to a really good team, an amazing team, is they make a really good team look really average and not up to it and not at the level and not like a winner. And that's what Spain did to Italy. They tore them to pieces. I mean, they destroyed them in that game, and I said in the game, they probably were hitting their shots too well, Spain, because they were hitting them perfectly. And it was always going to be an own goal that was going to win them the game because of how good their chances were and how many chances they created. But the one big point, and it's a good point, to make. Spain haven't just done it against the sides they should be beating. I mean, Albania in match day 3, they made a lot of changes, 10 changes in that one, and they still won 1-0. Ferran Torres with the goal. But ultimately, Spain have done it against the big sides. I've said that already. Croatia and Italy, they've played their football against sides that are competitive, that are good teams, and that are proper quality footballers in the sides. But Spain have made them look average, and that's something that not every team in the competition has. All of the 8 teams that are in the quarterfinals have behind them, that they have done it against the bigger sides. Some of them have beaten the teams that they should be beating. Some of them haven't even beaten the teams they should be beating in that sense in the groups. So it's not as impressive. That's why I think Spain are the most impressive, the most kind of up ready for it. Especially this tie with Germany. And we'll talk about the tie overall in a second. But one thing I do want to point out about Spain, yes, they've got youthful exuberance and great quality in the final third, but it's their midfield that makes them tick. Rodri, Fabian Ruiz and Pedri, their skill, their ability, their calmness, composure on the ball, every single piece of what you need of a dominating midfield, that engine room as they call it, that is what Spain have. A mix of Pedri with the youth, Ruiz with a mad skill, and Rodri with the overall quality to spring a pass everywhere around the field and control the play and win the ball back and dominate and kind of sustain the possession against a really good defence. That is what Spain have in midfield, and if they keep those 3 in midfield fit and keep them firing to the top level, that it could be one of the best midfields of the tournament, if not they are already that type of quality. Ultimately against Georgia, Spain, I mean, yes, the first half it was a bit more difficult. Georgia took a 1-goal lead, Lenormand's own goal. Spain got back level through Rodri just before half-time, that we see so often with Rodri for Manchester City. But they came out in the second half and they kind of nullified Georgia's counter-attack. I mean, Georgia were really threatening on the counter-attack in that first half against Spain, but they nullified it in the second half. There was nothing to that from Georgia in that second half. Spain actually had 35 shots in total against Georgia, so dominance personified for Spain, and creativity absolutely skyrocketed in that one. And they make it look so easy. I mean, they play such great football, but the best sides make football, the best type of football, look so easy to play. It's not easy. It's not kind of simple. It's very complicated. It is very, very difficult. But the best sides make it look so easy, and that is exactly what Spain do. Germany, on the other hand, of course, the hosts, the kind of home nation, they've got the home crowd behind them. That could be a big factor for this one. But ultimately, so far for Germany, they've certainly not been massively uncomfortable, shall we say, in the tournament. They beat Scotland 5-1. The opening night, yes, they were against 10 men, but they were 3-0 up by half-time. Germany in that one. Then they made easy work of Hungary, although Hungary did try. They did have chances in that game, but ultimately Germany won 2-0. Then the game against Switzerland. Switzerland led them, and they were a massive threat to them, Switzerland, with that back 3. And they looked really good in that game. Germany maybe a bit off the boil, but they got that late equaliser to secure top spot in the group through Nicholas Füllkrug. But it hasn't been all their own way, shall we say. You know, ultimately Germany could come into this and absolutely obliterate each and every team, and kind of that home support could ease them through. So far we haven't seen that in the same sense that we've probably seen with previous teams. I wouldn't say that the German fans haven't been great, because you see the clips online, they've been fantastic, of course. There's no doubt about that. But the point I'm making is that it doesn't seem like Germany have needed to lean upon their home support as much. And that's credit to them, because a lot of teams can come under a lot of pressure being the home nation, and, you know, being the home nation comes with a lot of pressure, as I said. It's not easy. You have the pressure to kind of perform at the biggest level, and not the pressure to win the tournament, but at least go to maybe semi-finals for the hosts, especially when you're a capable team like Germany are, a very capable team and a very good team at that, managed by the youngest head coach in the tournament, of course, Julian Nagelsmann. But Germany look really good. and that man there on your screen, Jamal Musiala, looks top class. I mean, we say it with Bayern Munich all the time. It's fabulous, but the impact he's had for his country. We talk about youngsters and we talk about experience at tournaments being so important, but it's the lack of pressure that a youthful player, a new young player feels, to take that weight of pressure on your shoulders. But they don't feel it at all. They play with freedom. They play with confidence. They play with that kind of joy of playing for their country at such a young level. And I think that's what is making Jamal Musiala and other young players in the tournament play so well, is because they have that freedom to express themselves in the higher areas and to really kind of blossom for their country. There were more positive signs against Denmark, I think. I mean, it was a very disrupted game, as we know, with the weather conditions, but Germany dealt with that well. That could have been a stumbling block. It could have been a problem for them, but ultimately they made it work. They got the job done, and they made it quite a kind of professional performance, quite a kind of experienced performance. They didn't kind of panic, they didn't freak out. They went into that little break 0-0. They went in at half time 0-0, but they come out in the second half. They got their penalty, they got their 2 goals, and they sealed the deal. Jamal Musiala with a wonderful goal, by the way, for that second one for Germany. But Denmark were a very good side. They were competitive against Germany, but ultimately in the end, the class of Germany just saw out, and that's what got Germany through. And of course, I don't think they leaned upon the home support as much. As I said, I don't think they have leaned upon the home support because they haven't really needed to with the way that they've played. But I think that might come into question here on Friday in this game, and maybe going further in the tournament. Maybe the home support will be lent upon a lot more, and that noise and that atmosphere will be heavily needed. One point I would make about Germany as well: Nico Schlotterbeck, committed centre back, tough position to play. I mean he played all the way through the Champions League with Borussia Dortmund during the season, got to the Champions League final. Nico Schlotterbeck, a very impressive young defender, and could be one of the next best centre backs in world football. Nico Schlotterbeck, and he looked really comfortable for Germany against Denmark. He didn't look out of place whatsoever, and that's great to see for another great young player coming through for Germany. Patrick in the chat, great to have you with us. Get your views and thoughts in if you want to about what we're talking about. The Euros special, talking about the rounding up of the round of 16 and looking ahead to the quarter-finals. This Spain-Germany quarter-final, by the way, will be live on LFS. All 4 quarter-finals, both semi-finals and the live final, all live on LFS. And we start with this game on Friday, 5 o'clock in Stuttgart. A referee for that one, an English referee for that one, in Anthony Taylor. That was announced earlier this afternoon. So Spain-Germany, a repeat of the 2008 final. Both sides very impressive. It's going to be a tight one, that. Tough one to call. Right, next we're going to move on to the next game that was secured when England eventually did make it past Slovakia, and that's not the correct graphic. We'll move on. We'll go to the different game, and we're going in date order then. There we are. I was confused. My notes are in the wrong order. Nonetheless, Portugal-France, another absolute cracker to bring you on Friday, 8 o'clock from Hamburg. Another English referee involved in this one, Michael Oliver, of course, along with the English refereeing team involved for this one. Portugal against France, 2 incredible sides. I mean, this is going to be fun. Friday is going to be absolutely blockbuster. Spain-Germany followed by Portugal-France. I mean, could you ask for anything better? A repeat of the Euro 2016 final that was held in the Stade de France in Paris, in Saint-Denis, between Portugal and France. Portugal coming out on top in that one with an extra time winner from Eder to secure their one and only European Championship title. Portugal, France beaten on home soil, and probably would love to get revenge in this one. They have played each other multiple times since, but this one certainly one of the biggest in recent times. And let's start with Portugal then, because they've had a dramatic run from the round of 16. Not an easy run in the round of 16, of course, having to come the only penalty shooter of the tournament after that 0-0 draw with Slovenia inside 120 minutes. Cristiano Ronaldo missed a penalty in that extra time as well, and then scored his follow-up penalty in the penalty shootout. Diogo Costa, we'll talk about him as well. But let's start off with Ronaldo. It was kind of the Ronaldo show watching Portugal against Slovenia. He was having chance after chance. I mean, he had lots of free kicks. He was taking everything for them. He was everywhere. They were throwing crosses into the box galore to try and find his header, to try and find his head, to head it in. But each and every time it was just off. It just wasn't clicking at times. And you could see the real frustration in Ronaldo showing in that game. And that was quite interesting, quite kind of amusing at times, very entertaining. I mean, that first half, Ronaldo was creating a sitcom, shall we say, in that first half. Look, ultimately overall, Ronaldo, an incredible player. And look, at 39, to still be playing at the highest level, the 6th European Championships, which is as unbelievable as anything, but he's desperate to score. Yet to score in the tournament so far. Portugal, their run to this point, they beat Czechia after coming from behind against Czechia on match day 1 to win. They made easy work of Turkey on match day 2 to secure top spot in the group. As group winners, of course, and then beaten by Georgia on match day 3, having made changes, but Georgia needing to win in that one to secure knockout football, which they ultimately went out to Spain. But Portugal looked really half-hearted that day on that one, and then of course the round of 16 game, they struggled to find the net in that one, and that's all down to Slovenia and their well kind of choreographed defence. I mean, we talk about the smaller sides looking really defensively strong in this tournament. Those sides that aren't up to the top level, don't have the highest of qualities, aren't one of the so-called bigger nations in terms of their footballing ability. But the one thing that all the smaller, so-called smaller nations have had is their structure, their stability defensively. I mean, it's been very impressive to watch how well coached a lot of these teams are, and how confident they are in their defending, and how kind of resolute and stubborn and compact and all those words that we could talk all day and all those adjectives. But they were Slovenia. They were fantastic. And they were a threat themselves, no doubt. Portugal didn't have it all their own way, and it wasn't easy for them. But ultimately it was Slovenia's defensive performance that stood out on top massively. Of course, they took us to the first penalty shootout of the tournament, and what a penalty shootout it was. Diogo Costa making 3 saves in the penalty shootout. He is the first goalkeeper to make 3 saves in a penalty shootout at a European Championships knockout game in history. An incredible number of saves. 3 saves from 3. Portugal winning 3-0 on the end. They scored all 3 of their penalties. Slovenia missed all 3 of their penalties that were taken, and Portugal progressing. Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva, their scorers in the shootout. All 3 very coolly taken penalties, and Ronaldo stepped up first for Portugal. What a threat, what a kind of bit of pressure after missing a penalty in extra time to step up and convert it, and the way he converted it, the whip on it into the inside netting. It was fabulously taken penalty. There was no way that the Slovenian keeper was saving that one in Jan Oblak like he did Ronaldo's penalty in extra time. But Costa was the headline, certainly, for Portugal in that one. Back to Ronaldo. The stat on Ronaldo in the game, he had 8 shots overall, Ronaldo. 4 on target, 3 off target, 1 blocked, and he hit the woodwork once as well in the game. I mean, he had everything but a goal in that one. Ultimately, of course, goals and penalty shootouts don't count as an official goal. Therefore, he's still without a goal in the tournament. One other player, we talk about Ronaldo being 39, 41-year-old Pepe, still going at European Championship level. That is incredible. He did make a slight mistake inside in extra time, but he's 41. I mean, a 41-year-old even playing 20 minutes of football, never mind 115 minutes of football in a very intense game where your team are dominating and you're under a lot of pressure. At 41, it is absolutely alien. He is not human to be doing that at that level and at that age, and he is in an absolute peak condition. And I wouldn't put it past him being in the next international tournament in the World Cup in 2026. I wouldn't put it past him. Ronaldo did confirm, though, that this was his last European Championships, of course. At the next Euros in 2028, he will be 43, which seems to be a bit too much of an extension for Ronaldo. But the World Cup is certainly within much better reach, only 2 years away. And if Pepe's doing it at 41, Ronaldo can do it at 41. Another thing about Portugal, they have quality off the bench. That's one thing I would say they have a very good advantage of. Quality off the bench. If their players on the field are not delivering, they've got a lot of quality off the bench for this one. France, on the other hand, well, Portugal haven't really been massively tested. When they haven't shown up. That's a concern. But France, ultimately, in their games, still unbeaten at the tournament. Of course, they won a match day 1 against Austria, that narrow 1-0 win that they got. Max Verber with that one, an own goal in that one for France to progress. They 0-0 with the Netherlands, a pretty drab game. No Kylian Mbappe in that one after he broke his nose in the first game. He didn't appear in the second one, but did appear against Poland on match day 3. Did start that game, but no Antoine Griezmann. Griezmann came off the bench in that one, and it seems to be that France drew that one 1-1. But in their group games, and I made the point while I was watching the round of 16 game, Antoine Griezmann and Kylian Mbappe have to start together for France. If they don't start together, France will struggle. And yes, they did continue to struggle with their finishing ability against Belgium, but I think their football was a lot better. Yes, they just scraped through with that late own goal again from Jan Vertonghen against Belgium. But what I would say is France were much better in that game. They looked a lot better compared to either the Netherlands game or Poland, where in both games they didn't score from open play whatsoever. France, their only goal in that game against Poland came from a penalty from Kylian Mbappe, and the 0-0 with the Netherlands, no goals in that one. But the Austria game and the Belgium game, very similar for me for France. The way they played, the way they approached the game, the way they dominated the possession, the way they dominated the chances, the way they were actually the better side. The problem was, and the problem continues for France, and we didn't think this would be France's problem, but this is seemingly their problem, putting the ball in the back of the net at this moment in time. They are yet to score. They're into the quarterfinals, and they have yet to have a player in their own colours to score from open play. They have scored 3 goals in the tournament, 2 own goals and a penalty. They are yet to score from open play from one of their own players, France. It is immense how they're here, but they are. They're riding their luck, but they need to find a finish. They need to. They had 19 shots in that game against Belgium. By far the better side overall, ultimately, and deservedly went through on the basis and the balance of play, but only had 2 shots on target in that one, which is not enough for a side that wants to win the European Championships, especially against the best sides, when you might not get 19 shots and 19 chances to take that one goal that could deliver the winning goal for France. At the moment, they're struggling up front, but the very opposite at the back. They're keeping goals out. They have conceded just 1 goal at the tournament. That was the penalty to Poland, so they're yet to concede from open play in the tournament so far, which is a massive credit to their back four of course, right back Jules Koundé, the centre back partnership of Deo Upamecano and William Saliba, and then Theo Hernandez at left back. Really solid defence, both defensively and attackingly. They're absolutely fantastic. France, that back four looks unchanged, and they shouldn't change it unless they need to, because they should not disrupt that, because it's working, and it's working well, and it's keeping very good teams out in the likes of Belgium, the likes of Netherlands. Poland are slightly threatening, but they got a penalty, and Austria were threatening against France, but again they look defensively solid, and that's one thing that France can hold on to, is they're not conceding goals. Yes, they're not scoring goals, they're creating chances, which is promising. They're not scoring goals, but the big thing, they're not conceding them, which would be a worry for France. It would be that poison chalice, that poison combination of not scoring but conceding at the other end, but they're not. Their approach play against Belgium was very good. Their build-up play, that midfield combination of Tchouameni, Rabiot and Conte, and that midfield, and then Griezmann was off the right, playing right wing against Belgium. Mbappe off the left and Marcus Thuram up front. They created a lot of chances. France, Theo Hernandez and Jules Koundé on the overlap as well. They came narrow at time with their front three inside the width of the penalty area, which was really interesting to see, with Mbappe, Griezmann and Thuram very central, with the fullbacks kind of breaking down the wings on the overlap and cutting balls into the box, putting crosses in, cutting balls back into midfield. Their approach play was a lot better, a lot more fluid, a lot more kind of to their nature in a way, and it was much more impressive. But again, in and around the box, that final pass, that final touch, that shot, that kind of opportunity to find the net is still lacking. That's something they can build on, is the fact that they're getting everything right up until the final third. All they need to do is find the back of the net, and they will be a championship make-up side. They're not conceding, they have a strong goalkeeper, not conceding goals, very strong midfield. It's just the attack that is not up to the level just yet, but they've got unbelievable quality in Griezmann and Mbappe, just to name two of them, and then they've got options off the bench if they want. They've got Thuram, they've got Caoimhan who came on in that one, Dembele, Barcola, etc, etc. We'll miss a few, Kingsley Coman, Olivier Giroud, who's still in the side. Like, they've got massive talent and massive quality in the final third, but it's just about finding the net at the moment for France, which is the problem. But they have more to come, I feel. I think France are growing into the tournament, and the best of them is still yet to come from Les Bleus. Right, so that's our Friday games done. Confirm that then again for you. Portugal against France, Friday 8 o'clock from Hamburg. Referee Michael Oliver, and that one again is live watch along commentary here on LFS. You'll not want to miss that on Friday. Right, what's next? I have no idea, because my notes are in the wrong order, and I'll just see what graphic comes up. England, Switzerland, of course. We're back to Saturday then, and this is the Saturday 5 o'clock game on Saturday from Dusseldorf, England. Last time round's runners-up against Switzerland, who got to the quarterfinals in Euro 2020 after putting out France. They have put out the holders of the tournament, Italy, to get to this stage, and we'll talk about that game in a moment. But let's start about England and get into this one. Look, I've had a full rant in the group stage roundup. I had a full rant in the game that I watched them against Slovakia. I'm not going to have a rant, because 1, I'm not an England fan, 2, I don't care, and 3, ultimately, it comes down to maybe a bit of overreaction, in a sense. I don't want to say that it's kind of like uncalled for, the thoughts and feelings of their fans, maybe a bit uncalled for. Let's talk about it then. England against Slovakia had to come from behind in that one in extra time. They started well, decently well in the tournament, England. That 1-0 win over Serbia. Certainly not convincing, but a 1-0 win nonetheless to get them off to the tournament. Jude Bellingham scoring the only goal of that game. They then went into the Denmark game. They took the lead in that one, and then they went pegged back through a wonder strike from Morten Hjulmand to level the game, but they really lacked the potency in the final third. Once again, England 1-1 in that one, and then the 0-0 draw with Slovenia on match day 3 of the group. Really dreadful group, that one, Group C. But ultimately, England progressing as group winners, and then facing off against the runners-up, ultimately of Group. The third place team of Group A in Switzerland. Switzerland, of course. Slovakia. What am I talking about? They run a third place team in Group E. I'm talking about this fixture. The third place team in Group E, Slovakia, of course, which they had to come from behind again to win in extra time. Let's talk about it then. England, throughout this tournament, haven't been at their very best, haven't been at the top level. A lot of people talking about imbalance on the left-hand side, the full-back's not in the right situation, the midfield looking confused, sitting too deep, not pushing high enough, Harry Kane not being potent enough in the box, the wingers not threatening enough. A lot of negativity about England at this moment in time. Yes, they've lacked quality in games, 100%. From the 4 games I've watched of England, and they've commentated on all 4, all of them, yes, they've lacked quality in the final third. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. They have scored 4 goals in the tournament so far. 2 of them coming in that round of 16 game. But one thing I would say, and I could talk about it all day, but they've got massive quality. You know, I've talked and waxed lyrical about Spain and Germany and France and Portugal before this. And everything each team in the quarterfinals have a lot of quality, and there's no doubt about England. They were coming into this tournament as one of the favourites to lift the trophy. Certainly not now the favourites, but could be with the side of the draw that they're on. But a lot of improvement needed, and it's common sense. It goes without saying, but they have lacked quality ultimately in games. Their midfield, I agree with the criticism. They are too deep. They're not pushing high enough. I mean, we saw more Jude Bellingham in that game. Promising. I said it in the first half. It was promising the way England were playing. But again, still not potent enough. Still something is lacking in that final third where they're not creating clear-cut chances. They're struggling with that creativity. They had no shots on target till the 95th minute. 95 minutes against Slovakia. Aside, no offence to Slovakia, no discredit to them whatsoever. They beat Belgium. Fantastic team. They performed well, but they're not prime Brazil or prime Barcelona. To put it to club football, they're not the best team in the world, Slovakia. And England, with the quality and the ability and the players that they have, should be having more than... They should be having at least a shot on target against Slovakia in that game. Really dreadful. Ultimately, 95 minutes it took them to get the shot on target. One thing I would say, their defence looks strong, looks solid. Mark he's done very well at centre-back alongside John Stones. Right back, Kyle Walker, again, yes, very solid defensively, but could they be hampering what they could offer from right back in an attacking sense, in an offensive sense? Kieran Trippier, on the left-hand side. He's not a natural left back, he's more of a right back. But he's not the most defensive. He can bring forward, and of course he's a great set-piece taker and all that. But the opposition defence knows how to defend his opportunities because he always cuts inside. He's right-footed, playing left back. You're not going to get the best out of him in that position. And I'm not blaming the player one bit here, Kieran Trippier, but it can't work. It's not working. The balance is wrong. There's something not clicking about England, and it's because they're not in cohesion. The players in the team are not in their best positions, the majority of them. Phil Foden does not play in the left wing anymore. Doesn't work. Kieran Trippier playing out of position at left back. Kyle Walker at right back. He is a natural right back, of course he is. But is he what England need in that position? I don't know. What about the double pivot that they want in midfield? Who's partnering Declan Rice? The inconsistency of that system and the players changing all the time in that system makes it a bit complicated. Then, ultimately, after that, forward, again, Harry Kane, a bit confused as to what his role is. So the side don't know what they're supposed to be doing, because the players are not playing in their natural positions. They're not playing their natural football. They would play for their clubs, that high pressing, high intensity, dominating possession football where they're creating a lot of chances. And maybe that's what the coach wants in Gareth Southgate. Clearly that's the idea of the team, to be a bit deeper, to sit a bit more defensive, to not be that high pressing, kind of high intense side, because you maybe fear of getting caught on the counter attack, maybe, I don't know. But they've got a lot of recovery pace, England, and we've seen that in games already when they've needed to, so that shouldn't be a worry. But it's simple tactical things, and I said it before, England can improve and will improve if they fix the simple basic things. They're not doing that at the moment. That's not the players' fault. It's a tactical situation that is the problem. It's not the players, it's the situation. Yes, the players have to take responsibility of not performing in moments in games, and yes, Jude Bellingham would come up with an absolute wonder moment of a fantastic overhead kick to level the game in the 95th minute, to level things. But there's no way those quality of players do not have a shot on target in 95 minutes if there's something not going right, because that is, it's glaringly obvious. And then Harry Kane scoring the winner, of course, in extra time. But that imbalance with full-back positioning is wrong. It's not going to work. Gareth Southgate believes in Kieran Trippier and Kyle Walker, and the only reason he does is because he knows they're going to be defensively solid. But England don't need defensively solid fullbacks. If you want to have overlapping fullbacks that can attack, which clearly they want, don't have them being more defensively minded in the likes of Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier. And also don't have one that's playing left back that should be playing right back, that is right footed playing left back, and all he can do is step in field because he can't whip a ball into the box with his left foot. There's no problem with that. It's not Kieran Trippier's fault. It's him being in the wrong position. He's doing the best of what he can in the position that he's being put in, and that is his problem. And that's not Kieran Trippier's fault, but it's Gareth Southgate's something that he needs to fix if England are going to improve. Ultimately, again, when they went ahead in extra time, I mean, I get it. You're in extra time. You don't want to push. You don't want to kind of threaten things. But they did sit a bit deeper. And one other thing I will say, their press is wrong. The press is shambolic. I mean, their forwards are pushing, but their midfield are not. If you're going to press, which England haven't been thinking about as their first priority is pressing high, that's not been their priority this tournament at all, tactically. Tell me it isn't, but don't argue because it's true. But the attacking line are pressing from the front, but the midfield are not following, the defence are not following, so there's this major gap where the attackers are pressing, but they're leaving this gap, so the opposition can break the press pretty easily because there's gaps in midfield, because the midfield are not following in, and the defence are not pushing up to compact the pitch, to therefore make it difficult for the opposition to play out. It's basics, but they're not getting it right. Again, simple things that they can change, they can fix, they can work on, that will improve them instantly. Simple things. Same with France. Everything is clicking up to 1 point, and if they get that 1 point right, they will click and they will perform and get the level out of the team that they're very much capable of doing. But at this moment in time, England certainly not at that level. But let's see how they perform against Switzerland, because by their own admission, they've struggled against a back three, a Switzerland team that aren't afraid of the opposition, as we saw against Italy, and they're a very kind of well-coached side. Switzerland might be a very tough task for England. And let's talk about Switzerland then. Let's move away from England and the Three Lions for now. And let's talk about Switzerland, because their game against Italy was fabulous. I mean, up to this point in the tournament, they started the tournament fabulously well. That 3-1 win against Hungary on match day 1. Then they drew 1-1 with Scotland, which was kind of an anticlimax of a game. I mean, Xherdan Shaqiri scored that wonderful goal against Scotland to get the point out of it for Switzerland, but they probably could have got more out of that game based on the way they played. Switzerland maybe should have got 3 points, could have got 3 points. And then that draw with Germany, where they led for the vast majority of the game and just conceded a late equaliser, Nicholas Füllkrug rescuing it for Germany. But Switzerland could have had top spot in Group A, but ultimately that late equaliser denied them top spot. They finished as runners-up in Group A, of course, behind Germany, which was very impressive. Switzerland were kind of underdogs for that group. I mean, a lot of people kind of betted more towards either Hungary or Scotland, maybe nicking an extra place and not Switzerland, maybe massively under the radar. Switzerland maybe, you know, they've performed really well in recent tournaments. Euro 2020, of course, putting out the then world champions France in the round of 16. You know, they have performed recently really well. I don't know why they went under the radar so much in this tournament. I did the exact same. I predicted them to finish bottom of the group, ultimately. I just didn't think they had enough in the final third, but clearly they do. And clearly they're very well coached and a very good side. Their football is cool. It's class. It's kind of that premium type football. It's not kind of dogged and rugged and kind of fight hard to battle. They're really kind of skillful, cool, classy, kind of that regal team, ultimately. And maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but from the 4 games that I've watched, they have been very regal, and they've been very controlled, and very composed, and very kind of eccentric. And one thing I will point that to is the two in midfield. Granit Xhaka and Remo Freuler have run the show for Switzerland. They have been absolutely fabulous in that midfield. They've been wonderful. And the point being, Switzerland are run off their midfield. We talk about other teams being run by their midfield and how dominant their midfielders are and how controlling the game is with their midfielders. But Xhaka and Freuler, that combination gets them up the pitch, plays those wonderful passes into really good spaces, into tight little gaps for their forwards to break into. They keep the width, they keep the strength, and they solidify and nullify the opposition midfield. They did it against Italy, they've done it against Hungary, they did it They did it against Scotland, and they ultimately did it against Germany in a very strong midfield with the likes of Tony Kroos in it at that time. So Switzerland have dominated midfield the majority of their games, and that's down to the combination of Xhaka and Freuler. I thought they were a bit underwhelming at times in the game against against Scotland, I would say. That's probably the only game where I think Switzerland have underperformed, and that midfield didn't really show up that day. They still dominated, but I don't think they showed their true qualities in that way and let Scotland away with too much. But another thing, that front three for Switzerland, Ruben Vargas, one of them, class goal against Italy, by the way, absolute wonderful goal against Italy. Dan and Doy, and then Braylon Bolo. I mean, very, very good players. I mean, look, we know the quality of Braylon Bolo. We know the quality of Ruben Vargas. We've seen bits and pieces from him if you watch European football constantly. But one player we don't know about is Dan and Doy very much. And I don't know very much about, and I didn't know very much about him until before this tournament. But what a player he is. The skill, the quality, the kind of coolness on the ball that a winger needs to have to kind of dominate. The way he just nonchalantly just takes those mad touches from crazy balls out to the wing, and he just nonchalantly just taps it, and the deftest of touches. It's fabulous. He had a couple of them against Italy, and I was like, my goodness me, this player is incredible. Braylon Bolo, fabulous player. Ruben Vargas, absolute. He's like a Rottweiler. He's kind of desperate for the ball, but when he gets the ball, he turns into this kind of magician in terms of the way he plays, and it's really fascinating to watch. But one thing, and I said England, by their own admission, have struggled with it. Switzerland have got that back three, back five balance perfect. Perfect. And I will repeat that again. They have it absolutely perfect. They combine in dominating that back three that dominates so well, that Switzerland back three, where they're pushing up the field, but they keep their width. They allow the wing backs, which is their role in a back three, but allow the wing backs when they're in possession to completely just flee forward and not have a single worry, a single care about defending. But they do get back, and in that game, it was Fabian Rieder at times at the right wing, but mixing with Dan and Doy at times in between, and Michel Aebischer, sorry, on the other side for Switzerland. Fabulous. But then that back three of Cher, Akanji and Rodriguez look really strong, really calm, really composed, really kind of physically imposing, kind of scary, that defence. You know, we talk about how players have that aura. A defensive player, we talk about Virgil van Dijk, for example, having that aura where people are afraid to take him on because they know how good he is. He's got that aura. I think the Swiss mid defenders have that aura around them where they make it look so effortless. They're defending. And they're well marshalled by Manuel Akanji, who's very strong at the back for them. Cher with a lot of experience. Rodriguez, he's looked really cool on the ball. But Aebischer and the other wing back, whether it be Rieder or Ndoye, sometimes it's been Vargas as well. But that interchange, where their wing backs are really attacking, really confident, really just free to break forward, and even weave in between the midfield as well, in kind of like a makeshift 8 to 10 role where they're attacking from the midfield areas. That fluidity in the team, it goes down to how well they're coached and how good their coach Murat Yakin is, because of how well they did and how easy they make it look. I said about Spain about earlier on, how well they make that style of play that they play with look. They make it look, the really complicated things look really, really simple. That's credit to Switzerland, because they did. In that Italy game, I mean, Italy didn't lay a single glove on Switzerland. They were all over the place. They were below par. The pressure, that round of 16 curse for the previous winners continues again. It's happened in the last three tournaments. Spain got knocked out of the 2016 European Championships when they were the holders at the round of 16. Portugal at Euro 2020 when they were the holders got knocked out at the round of 16, and Italy have followed suit once again at the round of 16. They were knocked out after being the holders. It is a certain curse, and you certainly don't want to be the holders of this tournament. I mean, you would love to win it, but you wouldn't bet yourself in next time round of 16. Certainly put a bet on that. For that one, Manuel Akanji, that leader at the back, I've already said it about how well he looks, but that leader ability, really strong at the back, and then the efficiency in the final third is fantastic. Their way, I mean, I was quite disappointed with how they started that game against Italy because they were dominating the possession, they were dominating the ball, but they just couldn't find that final touch, that final pass. I talk about France struggling in the final third, linking everything together, but Switzerland did early in that game against Italy. But when it clicked, and that's where their first goal came from. They passed it around really smoothly, really fluidly, 1-2 touch football. They knew exactly where they wanted to be, and then the run from was it Freuler? Was it made the run into the box that got the goal? I'll double check that. It was Remo Freuler made that run into the box. I remember him running into the box, and I was staring and looking, going, "Where's the Italy defence? Where's his marker? Where's his man?" No one tracking him, and Remo Freuler just sweeped in, struck it in inside the post. It did come off ultimately in Donnarumma, but ultimately too much power to keep it out. Gigi Donnarumma, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but not in this competition anymore, and certainly not defending their title anymore, at least. Switzerland taking on England in the quarterfinal. That is Saturday, 5 o'clock on LFS. As I mentioned, all 4 quarterfinals live on LFS. England against Switzerland, Saturday at 5 o'clock from Dusseldorf. Right, to our final quarterfinal, and the one that was confirmed yesterday after our 2 games where we watched the Netherlands beat Romania 3-0, and Turkey, their very good performance against Austria to win 2-1 ultimately yesterday. Let's start. This is my favourite one. This one is going to be our final quarterfinal on Saturday night at 8 o'clock in Berlin, in the venue will be hosting the final, the Olympiastadion, the Olympic Stadium in Berlin. Netherlands-Turkey then. Let's start with the Netherlands. I've been very disappointed with the Netherlands up until yesterday's game about the quality they have, but their ability, they've got quality and ability in abundance in the team, but the performances weren't at the top level. And we'll quickly run through their run to this point already. They had to come from behind against Poland on match day 1 in their group to win 2-1. That winner from Wout Weghorst. Then the second game again, Netherlands-France 0-0. Very dull game. Both teams lacked lacked anything in that game. They were awful. Really poor game. And then on match day 3, they were beaten by Austria 3-2. Austria ultimately the winners of the group. In Group D, Netherlands finishing 3rd in their group. That's why they were disappointing in the run-up, because they finished 3rd in their group. Yes, they know it's a tough group. It's not an easy group. They've France in there. Austria are not a bad side, and then of course Poland aren't a half bad side either. But Netherlands would be disappointed finishing in 3rd because of the fact of, well, maybe they could have had a realistic idea of maybe winning the group if they got the better of France in that game. Or maybe France slipped up at one point that they could have won the group. They easily could have won the group, Netherlands. If they'd have just drawn that game, they certainly would have been in a better position. Ultimately, they would have won the group because France were finishing 2nd nonetheless. So it was between the Netherlands and Austria who was finishing top. But if the Netherlands had have drawn that game, they would have finished top. But 2nd would have been a realistic plausibility for the Netherlands. They would have been happy with 2nd if it was to France, but to finish 3rd in the group behind both France and Austria would have been a very disappointing factor. They ultimately ended up having to play the Group E winners, Romania, in the round of 16, which they made easy work of. But ultimately, that Austria game, there was a lot of confusion coming into this one, a lot of certainly not calm Netherlands voices and Dutch voices, because, Virgil van Dijk said before the game, maybe we've overestimated ourselves in this tournament, and that was took me aback a bit to think, wow, your captain coming out and saying after that result against Austria, maybe we've overstated ourselves, maybe we've said that we're a bit better than what we actually are, is massive. But ultimately they showed their quality in that game against Romania. I mean, they lacked a lot of things, and I'll run you through it. They lacked a lot of things against Austria, but one thing they did, certainly things that they improved against Romania, they were much better fluidity. Their passing was a lot more crisp, but much sharper, much more controlled, much more not composed, because I'm sick of saying composed, but disciplined in a sense, in that they didn't rush things, they didn't force things, they knew what they were playing and they took their time with it. They dominated possession, but not only that, they didn't just dominate possession, they dominated the territory, which is crucial against Romania. You know, we talk about teams dominating possession and having a lot of the ball. It's all well and good, but many times do we say, yeah, it's all well and good having the ball, but it's about what you do with it. And that's crucial. And in that point, the Netherlands not only dominated possession, but dominated the territory against Romania. They had over 50. They had 50 touches in the opposition box and 139 passes in the final third. By far the most in that game. By far their most in the tournament so far. They were very threatening, very potent in the final third. That threat from the runs in behind, the likes of Memphis Depay making really cute runs, Xavi Simons, Cody Gakpo, of course. We'll get on to Cody Gakpo because I could wax lyrical about Cody Gakpo all day long. We don't have enough time in the world for that. And of course, Steven Bergwijn was an interesting inclusion on that right wing. Did come off in the game. I think, did he come off at half time? For Donyell Malen, he did. I'll talk about Donyell Malen very shortly, but Steven Bergwijn was an interesting idea. But it made the Netherlands a lot more fluid in the final third, a lot more kind of understanding of what they needed to do in the final third, but also they were very threatening and potent with those little runs, the skillful passes. They looked very kind of in tune with what they needed to do. But let's talk about Cody Gakpo, because, I mean, what a performer. I mean, certainly wasn't going to be predicted as one of the best kind of finishers in the tournament, or one of the top scorers. Great player, fantastic player, and certainly Ronald Koeman, the Netherlands head coach, certainly gets the very best out of them. That maybe at club level that isn't seen as much. He's kind of in that kind of confused role at Liverpool. Maybe under the new head coach in Arne Slot, maybe that could change. But ultimately, with Ronald Koeman, he seems to get the best out of Cody Gakpo at this moment in time, and clearly a top player. 4 appearances in the tournament and has got 3 goals for the Netherlands. That equaliser against Poland on match day 1, and he also scored in that game against Austria. Ultimately, they lost that game, but he did score, and then scored yesterday against Romania. That first goal, really nice goal, chopped in from the left-hand side. I mean, it's kind of trademark Cody Gakpo, that goal. Chopped in from the left-hand side onto his right foot, taking the strike into the near post, and it just escaping in past the Romanian keeper. That probably should have done better. The Romanian keeper, Nita, probably should have saved it. But ultimately, Cody Gakpo, when you're on form, everything seems to go for you. And 3 goals in 4 appearances makes him the joint top scorer of the tournament. A class player is Cody Gakpo. Donyell Malen, let's talk about him then. Impact off the bench. You know, we talk about teams needing that extra option off the bench if needed to kind of change things, to offer something different, to maybe, if you need it, get that extra goal. And Donyell Malen was exactly that. Was in the right place at the right time. 2 very different goals. He got 2 goals in the game, but 2 very different goals. The first one, a poacher's finish. Cody Gakpo keeping it in on the left wing at the byline, the goal line. Cut it back in the box. He committed the keeper and everything, and Donyell Malen was the poacher in the box, looking to cut it back, waiting for the cutback, got the cutback, and just slotted into an empty net. And then the second one from Malen, the third goal ultimately for the Netherlands, they got just before full time, was a real counter-attacking goal, a fabulous run from his own, around about his own half, I would say. And he just made it look so effortless, and the finish was fabulous from Donyell Malen. 2 very different goals, but a very good player that performed well in the 45 minutes that he played in the second half. Strong defensively, I would say, the Netherlands. You know, ultimately they did concede those 3 goals to Austria, and that could be a worry against the bigger sides, the more competitive, the more attackingly potent sides. You know, Romania are certainly maybe not that. France really struggled against them, but that was mainly due to the fact that France were awful that day. And maybe Poland got something out of them, but they're not massively convincing against the bigger sides. But when the teams that they are beating, they are decent defensively. As I said, they dominated territory, and of course they're certainly growing into the tournament. We say that teams, it's not about how you start in the tournament, it's about how you finish. And at the minute, the Netherlands certainly improved against Romania. Yes, against probably lesser opposition, but a lot more to come for the Netherlands. I do believe that we will see that 3-0 performance. One performance can really turn a tournament on its head for you. And I think that might happen for the Netherlands. Their tournament might have just kind of swung in their favour with that result. To Turkey then, our final quarter-finalists. Turkey beating Austria by 2 goals to 1 last night. They've had an interesting run to the round of 16 there in their group. They had to come from behind against Georgia on match day 1. They were a level in that game and ended up winning it. 2 cracking goals in that game, and then the third goal sealed the deal in the 3-1 win against Georgia. The first one, absolute cracker from Mert Mulder, and then the second one from Arda Güler against Georgia was wonderful from the 19-year-old. Cracking finish, one of the goals of the tournament, and then they got that third one. Then against Portugal, it was tough. They gifted Portugal a goal or two. They made it really difficult for themselves. They ultimately lost that one 3-0 before getting the draw on match day 3 of the group to secure the win against Czechia on match day 3. They were drawing until the very last minute when Cenk Tosun scored the winning goal for Turkey that secured knockout football for them. A draw would have been enough against Czechia, but they got the win in that one. That was the most yellow cards, or most cards in a UEFA tournament game in history. 20 cards in total, 18 yellows, 2 reds in that one. But Turkey have certainly had a dramatic tournament so far. And then coming into this one, Austria, tough side, really difficult side, played really well. Of course, that win against the Netherlands. They performed well against France. They made Poland look really average. I mean, Ralf Rangnick, massively impressive as Austrian head coach. They're very well coached, a lot of great players, played really well, caused a lot of upsets. Under Ralf Rangnick so far, they've performed incredibly well. But Turkey, the way they played was massively impressive. Austria really struggled at times. Yes, they dominated probably possession in the game, Austria. Certainly towards the end of the game, they were having more of the control. But in the first half, Turkey really did make them look nothing special, shall we say. And considering, let's put this in context. Turkey were without their captain, Çalhanoğlu, one of their star players at the back, Akaydın, who has been a massive performer for them in the tournament so far. So without both of those players, both suspended due to yellow card accumulation, going into a game against a side who have just beaten the Netherlands, yes, a poor Netherlands side, but a very threatening and imposing Austrian side. But they didn't look phased at all, Turkey. Not at all. And I mean, we'll talk about the star man, but the way they played from back to front, every single man to a T was fabulous and played to an absolute, within an inch of their lives. They were absolutely wonderful, and a really kind of hearty performance. That's all I could describe it at full time, that hearty performance, because that's what they gave. They gave every single inch, every single ounce of energy for their country, and that is exactly what you want in the European Championships, and that's exactly what Turkey gave against Austria. 2-1. They actually went 1-0 up inside 57 seconds, Turkey, in that one. That is the quickest goal in Euros knockout history. It's only the second goal in the Euros history to ever been scored inside the first minute. The other one, Albania's goal in this tournament. I saw that stat and I was like, there's no way that these 2 goals in this tournament are the only 2 goals in the first minute of a European Championships in history. But they are. Everyone else came after this in the second minute or later. 57 seconds, the quickest goal in European Euros knockout history. Last night, got Turkey off to a fantastic start. It was terrible defending by Austria. Great corner by Arda Güler. The keeper palmed straight into the path of Meri Demiral to rifle it into the roof of the net. To give Turkey that 1-goal lead, but they built upon that. I said it in the commentary, and I will revert back to it. We see a lot of sides when they take a lead against probably what they would feel is maybe the more informed side, of probably the better quality side, in inverted commas, if I can get that word out. Usually we see the kind of so-called lesser side drop off when they get the lead and kind of defend a lot more and defend their territory a lot more and sit a bit deeper and not look to take as many risks. But Turkey didn't. Turkey stayed high, they stayed pressing, they stayed compact, and they stayed very well controlled in the game. They didn't look nervous, they didn't look out of place, and they certainly did not look like they were scared of Austria one bit. And that kind of courage in a game can really make the difference at times. When you do kind of sit back and sit deeper, you invite that pressure, and you ultimately cowed you're maybe a bit harsh, but you cowered your way out of that lead in a sense. You allow the opposition a way back into it, but Turkey certainly did not do that, especially in the first half. Second half, Austria did come out and play a lot better. They had 15 shots in that second half. Austria had 2.68 xG, so they created a lot of chances and should have, from the chances they created, scored goals. But one man, and one man only, was the star player for Turkey. Mehdi Demiral. What a performance. To score both goals and to head absolutely everything at the other end. I mean, he was incredible. He had made 17 clearances, he blocked 4 shots, he made 3 interceptions, he had 61 touches, 90% of his passes were accurate. I mean, he won all of his ground duels, 6 out of 10 of his aerial duels, and has won a foul. He had 2 shots on target in the game. He was nigh on impeccable in the game, both defensively and offensively. Scoring both goals. The second goal came from a corner, headed in. Again, Arda Güler with the delivery, and again, that time headed in by Demiral. But his performance at the back was sensational. He was a brick wall. There was nothing getting past him. Especially when Austria dominated in the final 20-25 minutes. When they were pushing, they got that goal back, Austria, through Gregoritsch. But for those final 25 minutes, when they were pushing for that equaliser, Demiral didn't allow anything past him. And that defence as a whole were well marshalled in the likes of Bardakci and Ayan, and then Mulder and Kadiolu as well from the wide areas. Really, really solid, really, really strong, and massively impressive. But they defended it really well. They won more duels than Austria in the game, so that brings it to the point that they were stronger and much more physically imposing on Austria than Austria were on them. They won 54% of overall duels, but won 64% of ground duels. They won less aerial duels ultimately than Austria, but won more ground duels and more dribbles and more duels overall. So therefore, ultimately, a very hardy performance from Turkey, throwing everything and everybody on the line. But we talk about Demiral, but what a goal, what a save from Mert Günok in the 94th minute, the last action of the game. They got a corner after this, Austria, but it came to nothing. But what a save. I said it in the commentary. Christoph Baumgartner had multiple headers during the night, but they were all going off target, they were going over the bar. But the one header that he has on target, that is threatening, that bounces up, that tests the goalkeeper, Mert Günok pulls out an absolute wonder of a save. Many conferring it to Gordon Banks. I don't remember that save, that's just what I'm hearing from elsewhere. I have to watch that clip somewhere of Gordon Banks, but that's what's being told. Probably one of the best goalkeeping saves in a huge moment for a side that I have seen in a very long time, especially that late in a game, the circumstances of the game, and what it means for Turkey. A goalkeeper that had to do the business and did the job incredibly well when called upon. That is what the best goalkeepers are. They might not be called upon for a while, but when they have to make a save, they make one of the best saves, and that was certainly Mert Günok in that game. He made an absolute wonder of a save. Right, that is it. So, rounding us up for this afternoon in the LFS podcast, Euro special, rounding up the round of 16 and looking ahead to our quarter-final matchups. We've gone over an hour. I got lost in that. I enjoyed that. Talking for a full hour about those games. Hope you enjoyed it too. Great to have you with us here on the LFS podcast. And do, as I said, like, subscribe and turn on post notifications. You'll not want to miss any of the 7 remaining games of the Euros, the 4 quarterfinals, both semi-finals, and the live final, all coming up over the next week and a half here on LFS. And we get underway this Friday 5 o'clock, as we watch Spain take on Germany from Stuttgart. Spain, the Group B winners against the Group A winners, Germany. 2 of the most impressive sides of the tournament. That's Friday, 5 o'clock. Live commentary, audio commentary, and live watch-on commentary of that one here for our first of 4 quarterfinals. We then follow suit a bit later on when we watch on Friday evening, when we watch Portugal against France. Then we follow that up on Saturday with another 2 games as England take on Switzerland from 5, and then we finish with Netherlands-Turkey from 8. The semi-finals are next Tuesday and Wednesday evening, one each night at 8 o'clock, and then the live final next Sunday, the 14th of July at 8 o'clock kickoff, and we'll have all the build-up. We'll preview that as well as react to the semi-finals as well, coming up in a few days' time. Do stay tuned for that. But thank you very much for joining me on the LFS podcast. Until next time, have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.